Guys, welcome back to the DutchRC channel. Thank you very much for tuning in for a video on a build project of mine. What you see here is two quadcopters, two multi-rotors. What you see over here is a quadcopter I built last year, a GapRC frame, and well, it's a custom built quadcopter. And what you see over here is, kind of the same thing, a freestyle quadcopter, so it serves the same purpose, if you will. And in this video I'm going to tell you why I'm building new quadcopters with a completely other frame, different motors and such. And I'm going to give you a roundup of the parts I'll be using and why I'll be using those parts. So, this is one of my GapRC KHX5 Elegance, and I have had 4 of these and a bind and fly version. This is a custom made quadcopter, a freestyle quadcopter. I did a long, maybe too long, series about this quadcopter and its relatives last year. And yeah, why am I replacing these quadcopters? Well, first of all, once in a while you want something new, right? And I also want to show you different things, so that's why I want to replace these quadcopters. Is this an outdated quadcopter by now? Maybe slightly, especially it having 4 separate ESCs. That's not really what you need to do anymore by now. When I built these quadcopters last year, the 4-in-1 ESCs weren't as reliable as they are now. And they were especially not as reliable as separate ESCs. So yeah, that makes this maybe a little outdated, but it doesn't make it perform less. It also has a full-size FPV camera. That's a little bit outdated, but again, this still performs well. This is a Runcam Swift 2 full-size again. Let me see, yeah, so it has a power distribution board and a separate flight controller, which is what you do if you run separate ESCs. It has an F7 flight controller, so that's definitely not outdated. This quadcopter still flies very well. Yeah, but let me see, yeah, this is the GapRC KHX5 Elegant frame. It is an unconventional frame, which makes it fly very nicely, very nicely. However, working on this frame, replacing parts, especially the FPV camera, is a little bit of a chore. A little bit. It's not horrible, but especially replacing the FPV camera, and yeah, once in a while you do damage your FPV camera. This is, yeah, it's not fun to replace cameras in this frame. Enter my new Speedybee builds. And when I say builds, I mean that I'm building 3 of these quadcopters. To quickly explain why I'm not building 1 or 2, if I go out and fly somewhere, maybe I'm gonna be flying away from home, I don't want my session to be over if I crash one quadcopter or if something's wrong on the first quadcopter or the second. You know that feeling, right? You've charged your batteries, you go out to the field and something is wrong on your quadcopter. Gremlins got to your quadcopter in the night and it doesn't fly anymore. I just can't have that, right? Maybe I've charged 20 lipos. I've gotten cameras ready and rolling. I can't have my first or second quadcopter not work right. So I want at least 3 of these quadcopters. The second reason for that is that if I fly several quadcopters, then I want them to be mostly identical, because otherwise I'd be getting used to the quadcopter half of the flight. I hope that makes sense. And that is kind of true for me in a sense, because I fly a lot of different quadcopters, right? I'm a reviewer. But when I'm flying for my own personal fun, and this is a quadcopter that I'm building for my own personal fun, I want my quadcopters to be mostly identical. Mostly. Not 100%, but mostly. Also, as you can tell, this Speedybee frame, it is a new frame. And I'll do a separate review video on this frame. Is a little more conventional, right? It has a bottom plate. It has standoffs and it has a top plate and 4 separate arms. For a freestyle quadcopter, that's a reasonably basic setup, and we've seen quadcopter frames like that for years. It is a modern setup with a narrow body for micro cameras, and it's very well built. More on that in my review on this frame, but it's slightly more conventional, and because of that it's easier to work on. And another reason for going with another brand for my frame is that DutchRC makes very nice products, really very nice products. However, their customer support is non-existent. There's no customer support at all. If you want to buy a DutchRC quadcopter ready to fly, or a frame, or some other part, be sure to buy it from Banggood or a local store. I've come across their frames in local stores. Instead of buying it from them directly, from their own webshop, because again you will not get any support. Long story short, I have opted for this Speedybee frame. I did evaluate several other frames. DutchRC has its Mark IV, right? Astro X has, well, there are a lot of frames like this. I've looked at them all and I went with this one, partly because I like its looks and I know it's a high quality frame. I have, for instance, also the Glide frame from Equipent FPV, and that's also a very nice frame. I went with this one. Obviously my quadcopters also need to move forward, and for that I've selected the iFlight Xing motors. And these are 2207 motors in their 1800 kV configuration. So yes, this will be a 6S quadcopter. All these freestyle quadcopters I'm now building will be 6S capable. Now you might have noticed that the other quadcopter I just showed you had Racerstar motors. And that's because I'm testing and comparing those to these Xing motors. More on that in a future video, if I've flown them more, so I can tell you whether those motors are any good. But the default configuration for my new freestyle quadcopters will have these Xing motors in this black and red variant and that camo paint. That's the same motor. These are a little cheaper, by the way, just so you know. The brain of my quadcopters will be this Mamba Diatone F7 stack. This is the full size stack, so 30.5 by 30.5. And obviously it's 6S cable, F7 flight controller. And I'll do a separate review video or overview video on this stack. So in this box you'll see a flight controller and a 4-in-1 ESC. But again, more on this stack in a future video. Alright, FPV cameras for these quadcopters. I must admit that it's a little bit of a mess. I'm simply using FPV cameras that I had in the parts bin. Maybe at a certain point I'll select one to be the FPV camera for all these quadcopters. But for now I have me a Micro Sparrow 2 Pro, which is not available anymore, by the way, but it's a huge camera with a huge lens. This is a Racer 2. I recently did a review on this camera, and this one is the Micro Eagle, a very reputable camera, of course. There is a very good chance that I'll at a certain point use a Micro Eagle for all these builds. Again, this is a very nice camera. The FPV setup for all these quadcopters will also be reputable, I think. Rush Tank VTX, and this is the first time I am actually using these Rush VTXs. I have been flying these quadcopters, the first two, for a while now, and yeah, very super duper clean video. That might be partly due to this VTX, and it will also be partly due to the Mamba stack I'm using. Well, so, but anyway, if you want to build a quadcopter with a very clean video feed, Rush Tank and a Mamba stack works. And Lollipop for my antenna. This is a version 2 actually. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of difference between the version 2 and the version 3 of the Foxeer lollipops. They work just fine. And for my control link, I'm gonna be using the FrSky R9 system, their long range system. Not that I'm very much a long range pilot, but it's mostly for reliability maybe. To punch through buildings with my signal and such. And I will do a longer term roundup of this system in a while. I have their the old version of the R9 system, and this is well, this is a MM, dus their smallest receiver. But I have two modules, their latest and the previous one. Again, I'll do a roundup of this system in a while, if I well, to see if I actually like it or not. Alright, first of all, sorry, I actually started the video with the Xing version, with the purple motors. So this is the version that has those Racerstar motors in lime, green and grey. And yeah, I'll do a comparison video about these motors specifically. And that's part of, well, I guess that's part of the reason why I'm building mostly identical quadcopters, right? To be able to actually evaluate motors. I can already tell you that these motors do not perform badly at all. They fly actually very similar to the Xing motors, but more on that in a review video on these motors. The next video in this series will be a review of this frame, and then I'll do a short overview of the stack as well. That Diatone Mamba stack. And obviously, if you have questions, hit me up a comment down below. I try to keep this video as short as possible, but at least I wanted to be able to have this video as a reference if people have questions about my freestyle setup. This is my setup, and this is why I chose the components I chose. And yeah, again, hit me up a comment down below if you have questions. The last thing I want to mention is that if you want to build a custom quadcopter and you want your quadcopter to be of good quality, I can vouch for all. Yeah, I can vouch for all components but the receiver, that R9mm system. I just don't know. The frame is of excellent quality. This Mamba stack. I have a slew of quadcopters with Mamba stacks by now. It's almost embarrassing, but they perform. That Rush tank. Yes, again, these are the first quadcopters I use these VTXs in, but from other reviewers you probably know that the Rush tank is a good VTX. And what more can I tell you? Yeah, these motors, I don't know what their reliability long term will be, but they do perform for sure. And all the parts I'm using in these quadcopters are listed in the description of this video. And yes, those links are affiliate links, just so you know. You'd be helping out my channel, and you'd be enabling me to evaluate other products for you in the future by using those links. So thank you very much in advance. Catch you in the next video. Bye bye.